So guys, today our topic is the carpal bones or the wrist bones. The carpal bones or the wrist bones are the small eight bones in the wrist. They are arranged in two rows, that is the proximal row and the distal row, and the each row consists of the four bones. So if you take the right hand in anatomical position such that the thumb is on the right side and the little finger is on the left side, from lateral to the medial side, the proximal and the distal row are arranged in such order. The first bone in the proximal row is the scaphoid, second is lunate, third is the triquetrum, fourth is the pisiform, and the first bone in the distal row is the trapezium, trapezoid, capitate, and hamate. The important mnemonic to remember or memorize the names of these bones is that some lowers try positions that they cannot handle. The each letter, first letter of the word specifies the first letter of the bone. For example, some stands for the scaphoid, L, lunate, T, triquetrum, P, pisiform, and so on. So it is arranged such that it is from the proximal first and distal second, proximal first and distal second, and in anatomical position, and then from lateral to the medial. For example, if the mnemonics will be occur such that the some lovers try positions that they cannot handle, first proximal row and then the distal row, and first the lateral side and then the medial side. So this mnemonic gives us the easy way to memorize these bones. Now we will study the each bone in the each row. So the first is the proximal row. So it is arranged in such order from the lateral to the medial row, from lateral to the medial row, from the lateral or the thumb side to the middle, to the little finger side. So it is arranged from the lateral to the medial side. For example, the first is scaphoid, which is present on the lateral side, and then is the lunate, then is the triquetrum, and then is the pisiform. So the first bone is the scaphoid, second is the lunate, third is the triquetrum, and the fourth is the pisiform. So we will study its four characteristics. That is the first is the shape, second is the location, and third is the features. So the scaphoid is a boat shaped bone, and it is the most lateral bone. It is the most lateral bone on the thumb side. What are its features? The features of the scaphoid is that it is the most frequently fractured bone. It is the most asked question in the Viva, that what is the most frequently fractured carpal bone? That is the scaphoid. The second feature is that it is the largest bone among the proximal row. The scaphoid is the largest bone among the proximal carpal bones. And its third feature is that it articulates with radius. Here is the important point, that the no carpal bone articulates with the ulna. The carpal bones only articulates with the radius, and which carpal bones? Only the scaphoid and the lunate. Only two carpal bones articulates with the radius, and none of the carpal bones articulate with the ulna. So we have studied the features of the scaphoid bone. The second bone is the lunate. The lunate is a crescent shaped bone, uh, as from the name it specifies, or it associates with the lunar name, and the lunar name is used for the moon. So it is a crescent shaped bone, and it is located between the scaphoid and the triquetrum bone. The feature of the lunate bone is that it articulates with the radius, like the scaphoid. Both the scaphoid and the lunate articulates with radius. None of the carpal bones articulates with the radius other than the scaphoid and lunate, and no carpal bone articulates with the ulna. The third carpal bone in the proximal row is the triquetrum. The triquetrum is a pyramidal shaped bone, and its location is the most medial. For it is its location is the most medial. The fourth bone is the pisiform bone. The pisiform is a P-shaped bone, and its location is that it's interior to the triquetrum. Here is the important point. The important point here is that mainly we consider that the pisiform is the fourth bone, and it should be on the most medial side of the hand, but it is not so. The most medial bone here is the triquetrum, and the pisiform is present anterior to the triquetrum. So the most medial bone in the proximal row is the triquetrum, and the pisiform is present anterior to the triquetrum. It is not the most medial bone. The most medial bone is actually the triquetrum, which is something strange or odd, you can say. As you can see in the diagram, this is the scaphoid bone, this is the lunate bone, this is the triquetrum bone, and this is the pisiform bone. The pisiform bone is not the most medial bone. It is the most medial bone is actually the triquetrum, and the pisiform is present anterior to it. This is the pisiform bone which is present anterior to it. I will show you through another angle. This is the triquetrum bone, and this is the pisiform bone. There is a space between it, and it is present anterior to the triquetrum bone. So I hope so the point is clear to you people. So the features of the pisiform is that it is the most smallest bone among the proximal row of the carpal bones. Secondly, it is a sesamoid bone. Thirdly, it is present in the tendon of the flexor carpi ulnaris muscle. It is not present so literally it is present in the tendon of the flexor carpi ulnaris muscle, and it is a sesamoid bone. So far we have discussed the proximal row of the carpal bones. Now we will be discuss the distal row of the carpal bone. The distal row of the carpal bone consists of the trapezium, trapezoid, capitate, and hamate from the lateral to the medial side. So this is the diagram of the uh, distal row of the carpal bones. The first is the trapezium on the most lateral side, second is the trapezoid, third is the capitate, and the fourth is the hamate bone. Now we will be discussing the characteristics of the each bone. Number first is the trapezium bone. The shape of the trapezium bone is the quadrangular or the four-sided shape. It is the most lateral bone of the distal row, and the features is that it articulates with the first and the second metacarpal bones. This point is not shown in the Snell's anatomy, but it is present in the BD book. Now I will show you trapezium in the diagram. The trapezium is the quadrangular or the four-sided bone, as we have studied in the notes. It is present is at the most lateral side, and it articulates with the first and the second metacarpal bones. So the second bone of the distal row of the carpal bones is the trapezoid. The shape of the trapezoid is the trapezoid shape, and the its location is that it is present between the trapezium and the capitate bone, and its feature is that it articulates only with the second metacarpal bone. So here is the trapezoid bone. It is present between the trapezium and the capitate bone, and it articulates with only the second metacarpal bone. The third and the most important carpal bone of the distal row is the capitate, and the shape of the capitate is that it is a bone with a rounded head. Its location is that it is present between the trapezoid and the hamate bones, and its features is that it is the largest bone among all the carpal bones, and it articulates with the second, third, and fourth metacarpal bones. Here is the important point. As we said earlier that the scaphoid bone is the largest bone. The scaphoid bone is the largest bone among only among the proximal row of the carpal bones, and the capitate bone is the largest bone among the all carpal bones, both the proximal row and the distal row. So this important point should be remembered. So we can say that the most largest bone of the carpal bones is the capitate, which is present in the distal row. So here is the capitate bone, which is the most largest bone, and it is present between the trapezoid and the hamate, and it articulates with the second, third, and fourth metacarpal bones. Number fourth bone of the distal row of the carpal bone is the hamate. What is its shape? It is a bone with a hook. It is a bone with a hook, and it is the most medial bone of the distal row. The analogous bone of the hamate is the pisiform. As we have seen earlier, that the pisiform was not the most medial bone, but here the hamate is the most medial bone because the pisiform was present anterior to the triquetrum bone, and the triquetrum was the most medial bone in the proximal row. So here in the distal row, the hamate is the most medial bone. Its feature is that it contains a hook which is called as the humulus, and it articulates with the fourth and the fifth metacarpal bones. So this is the hamate bone. It is the most medial bone according to its location, and it contains a hook. This is a hook which is also called as the humulus. So it is a bone with a hook, and it is present most medially, and it articulates with the fourth and the fifth metacarpal bones.